So welcome to Powerless Penguins United Big Book Study. This week I'm pleased to reintroduce Mags Day, who's kindly come along to continue the Big Book Study. Over to you, Mags.
Thank you so much, Loz. Good morning, everybody. I'm Mags and I'm an alcoholic, and you all know that drugs are part of my story too. Welcome everybody who's usually here, or if you're new, it's great to have you with us. And this morning we are at the bottom of page 84. It's the paragraph beginning, "And we have ceased fighting anything or anyone." This is a phenomenal paragraph. I mean, phenomenal. This is what we call the 10th step promises. At my home group, we read this at the end of every meeting, and I find them difficult to read just as a paragraph, simply because no matter what, and no matter how many times, I get emotional when I literally read it and listen to the words and feel the words as they're set out. Because what is presented in here, I have experienced 1,000,000% in my life. These promises, like it says of the 9th step promises, are these extravagant promises? We think not. If you do the work, this is what takes place in your life. Genuinely, this is what takes place. But before we go into that, a couple of things from last week, because we entered into this conversation about step 10. And in the short form as set out on page 59, it simply says that we continue, that important word, continue to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. But the long form that we're doing, last week's paragraph and the couple of paragraphs this week gives so much more detail than that. And we know that step 10 practice is that watch, ask, turn. Watch, ask, turn. Those 3 really simple instructions. It's all we are doing. Constantly watching, asking, turning. And what are we watching? We're not watching the external world. We're not watching what everybody else in the world is doing out there. We're watching ourselves. We're watching what's going on inside me. I think I shared it with you last week that this step 10 process was a game changer, life changer for me. And it continues to be every single day. Because I just love watching myself, watching what's going on inside me. Because see the person standing in front of me, they're never the problem. Like, imagine that. They are never the problem. And that's what I've come to learn, and that's what I've come to practice. And it does take practice. The first 18 months of practicing this for me felt pretty treacherous, if I'm honest. It's not easy. And Bill informs us of this in his own personal story right at the beginning of step 1. It's a really simple program. The instructions are simple. Clear-cut directions, masterly detail, but it takes effort. And we're going to talk about that as we go through the next couple of paragraphs. But I found it difficult because the reality of it is, through this practice of step 10, I was beginning to ask for the support, the guidance and direction from a power that was greater than me, that I just started tapping into. Like it said in the paragraph last week, we've only just entered the world of the spirit. So I'd only just entered this world. And what I was starting to do with the grace of God in this partnership with this power greater than me was that I was starting to try to change the habits and attitudes of a lifetime. And like it says in the paragraph from last week, it is not an overnight matter. It must continue for our lifetime. This is where we're introduced, this paragraph that we're covering this week. This is where we're introduced to the fact that this is a daily reprieve. I don't think I need to give anybody a definition of what daily means. But just in case you do, it means every day for the rest of our lives. Pretty scary that, isn't it? That you have to do something every day, consistently, for the rest of your life. I wasn't the type of person before I entered this world of the spirit that I did anything every day, consistently, to improve and progress myself, you know. And this watching myself all of the time for the things inside me that are rising to the surface inside me, to be healed inside me. Okay, so I gave you the example of a work colleague last week, that they were the issue, but in actual fact, when I started to watch what was going on with me, they were never the problem. It was because I wasn't getting what I wanted, to do what I wanted to do when I wanted to do it. You know, that's the thing. Because if somebody says something to me and I react in a way, the cause is within me. What I'm experiencing is the effect of that cause. So the effect is this outward manifestation of something else that is the cause inside me. So if I'm speaking to one of you guys today and I get this little, you know, angstiness inside me, like somebody has messaged me. I'll give you this example. It's a live example. Somebody has messaged me this morning and it's a very beautiful message. And they say in the message, just a friendly, little gentle reminder for you to send me the Zoom link for later. Really? So I wake up in the middle of the night, I see that at 20 past 4 in the morning. Just a friendly reminder to say it is very friendly or gentle. What I'm taking it as is you're putting me under pressure at 20 past 4 in the morning, and I ain't going to be seeing you till 8 o'clock at night. So do you know what you can do? You can just wait. Like, that's my initial reaction. Does that make sense to anybody? Because I can see the faces nodding on the screen. All those little nods. Yeah, you can identify with it. But that person sending me that message, my reaction has got sweet nothing to do with that beautiful woman's request to receive a Zoom link. And by the way, I shouldn't be using that term. There are other online platforms available. Tradition 10 would have me not mention the particular brand. So before the traditions, please come knocking on my door in the place where I am right now. I apologise. Forgive me. I'll make the amends to Zoom online platform and all other online platforms because I do not want to be. Anyway, you know, I'm not a brand ambassador for any one particular thing. So they asked for an online link. Anyway, meanwhile, back at the ranch, get back to the point, Mags. So what was rising inside me was, the cause of it was inside me. The effect that I was springing out was this. Really? Are you going to tell me what to do? Don't think so. I'm just going to control you and you're just going to wait until I'm ready to send it. And you know what? I'm not going to send it until 5 minutes before the meeting. Who's running this show, baby? I'll show you who's running this show. You're not putting me under pressure. I'm just that person that glides through the day. And when I'm ready to send it, I'll send it. I mean, how obnoxious, how rude. But that is my thinking at 20 past 4 in the morning. Do you know what I mean? Who does she think she is sending that message to me at this time of the morning? It's not her fault that I woke up and read it. Do you know? This is where my thinking can take me down a drain where I will react to something which actually is not a problem. Really and truly, it's not a problem. So in that moment, what this practice of my daily reprieve teaches me to do as we go into step 11 as well is to take a breath and to pause or to watch what's going on in me. And in that moment, I'm watching what's going on. At 4:20 in the morning, I keep on reminding myself of that time of, oh my God, Mags, what's going on with you? You've no necessity to respond now. And why would you have that reaction? I'm having this conversation with myself. I'm watching what's going on. As I look at what's going on beneath the surface of me, I'm feeling shortage of breath. Oh my God, this person's trying to control me. I do not want to be controlled. Then I take another level down. What's happening there? Why do you think you're being controlled? Well, because this is a reaction that I have to somebody at work because they do the same thing on me. Oh my God, but this person isn't the person at work. So what lies beneath the person at work? What is that? What is that? And I continue to watch and get to the point where it's like, Mags, why don't you just have the ability in this conversation with the power that is greater than me? Mags, why don't you just have the ability to say I'll send it when I'm ready? Or why don't you, to the person in work, not to the person that sent the message to me this morning, because it's got nothing to do with the person that sent the message to me this morning. It's right deep down within me, an old idea, a fixed idea of somebody else that causes me to have this reaction. It's the surface level is never the reason why I am upset. In the moment, it's very rarely the reason why I'm upset. And whilst I'm watching myself, constant, I can rip back the tissues in the layers of all of the stuff that I am making up about myself to get to the crux of what the problem is. Isn't that beautiful? Isn't that just so powerful? And in the moment this morning, when I read the message and I get that angstiness, in the moment, I'm like, oh my God, I hate this. What is this? And then I remember, ask God to remove it. I ask, I pray. Asking is the prayer. I ask God to remove, and I resolutely turn my thoughts to someone else. I resolutely turn my thoughts. In that moment, at that time of the morning, I resolutely turned my thoughts to helping my little dog who's here beside me, because he was the thing that woke me up. That's the reason why I woke up, because he was getting fidgety. And I just took that little dog out into the garden for a little walk around and came back and went to sleep. Resolutely turning my thoughts. See, by the time I got back up into bed with that little pup, boom, disappeared, melted away. Melted away. Watch, ask, turn. Watch, ask, turn. It's the most beautiful practice that takes practice. It takes effort, but in doing so, it changes my attitude towards life. It changed my attitude towards my fellows. I am no longer reacting out of emotion, out of anger, out of frustration, out of angstiness, out of feeling that I'm being controlled. That all dissipates. All of that is taken away. Because when I ask, do you know what happens? I receive. I spoke to everybody last week about this. I don't understand. And I can't comprehend what it means to just hand it all over. Yeah, I get up in the morning and get on my knees and hand everything over. I do not understand what that concept is. I don't hand anything over to the God of my understanding. I work with that power as I requested in my third step prayer. Build with me. Do with me. I don't hand it over and just leave it there like I said last week. I think last week I was having a matcha latte and a pistachio donut, wherever on earth those thoughts came from. I just don't hand those things over and wait for them all to be dropped on my plate whilst I'm chilling out with my mates. No, I have to do the work with God do with me, build with me. Yes, I've turned my will and my life over to the care of God, but I've done that by taking the action from step 4 right the way through to step 7. Then from there, I'm going out to do his bidding in partnership with this power. I'm never by myself anymore. I have to take the action, and I'm constantly doing the work. The other thing is this love and tolerance piece. Love and tolerance is our code. This morning with that example, I love this woman. This woman is just an amazing individual. And in that moment, I had to seek tolerance to be able to respond in a way that was appropriate, fair, reasonable, transparent, loving, and kind. Okay. Now, I just want to emphasize the fact that, in this process of love and tolerance, and I alluded to it last week, but it just came up in my inventories and meditations through the week that, this tolerance thing, it's not that I'm accepting, inappropriate behaviors. It's not that I'm accepting bad behaviors, if you want to label that. But as an individual, I become more tolerant. Okay. I don't snap so easily. I don't react so easily. I don't react so abruptly or in an aggressive way the majority of times. As long as I'm practicing this, I'm only human. That's why the practice is there. And we always have the opportunity in any given moment of the day to recalibrate, to resource and tap into that inner resource to make the corrective measures, which we'll talk about when we get to step 11 as well. But this tolerance piece, and I'm just going to use this example which my sponsor shared with me, we don't react as quickly. We have this ability to bend, to adjust in any given moment with anything that we're presented with. Now, by the way, I'm not a scientist and I'm not an expert in any of this sort of stuff. It's just an example. So if you are a scientist and you've got a problem with what I'm saying, don't call me to give me the ins and outs of the ions and the electrons and all of that. It's okay. It's just a way example. All right. So if you think about a piece of metal, and if you try to bend a piece of metal, say like an aluminium because it's softer, if you try to bend aluminium, okay, it's easy to. It's a bit more flexible, isn't it? You can bend it up, you can bend it down. But when you start to bend it in the middle, you'll start to see that the metal changes color. It moves from silver, and the more you bend it and stretch it, if you like, it becomes white. Okay? But the metal never snaps. That's the tolerance. And through this process, what I have is the ability to bend and stretch, bend and stretch, to receive things and to give things in a way that is much more fluid than what I've been able to do previously when I existed in the third dimension of existence, of this physical world, of this third dimension of thinking. Whereas now when we're rocketed to this fourth dimension of existence, it's very, very different. When we've entered into this world of the spirit, we're able to ebb and flow with things. And the metal doesn't snap, and nor do I. I'm given the ability to move with things, to alter with things, to become more agile, to pivot more easily. And it becomes more natural the more we practice this. Remember from the outset in step 1, they're telling us all the way through that this is a practical program of action. That being, it takes practice and action. And the more I practice and take the action every single day for the rest of my life, what happens is that this just becomes a way of life. It just becomes part of me. It just becomes a way of living. Like it says in the 9th step promises, we intuitively know how to handle situations that used to baffle us. And that intuition gets stronger and stronger and stronger the more I practice this every single day. Like, that's a miracle. It's incredible. By just taking those 3 simple things, watch, ask, turn, in any given moment of the day, I'm just gliding through. I don't stop to write a load of things down, take inventory, call my sponsor to say, can you point out my defects of character? No, it's this constant flow and conversation with the power. Of course, if I've harmed somebody, I pick up the phone immediately, talk it through with somebody, then I make the amends quickly if I've harmed someone. But more often than not, I'm gliding through the day because I'm not harming people all through the day. Therefore, I'm not constantly calling people all through the day. My intuition gets stronger where I'm able to discern these things with the power in a way that just enables me to flow through the day. So I hope that makes some sense. Now we move into the step 10 promises. Like, wow. I think I'll just read it in a oneer and then do each line. So wherever you're at in your program, set aside every single thing you think you know about where you're at in order to set aside every single thing you think you know about your steps, your program, in order to have a new experience with God so that you may be shown the truth in this moment. If you want to close your eyes and think about these words. And we have ceased fighting anything or anyone, even alcohol. For by this time, sanity will have returned. We will seldom be interested in liquor. If tempted, we recoil from it as from a hot flame. We react sanely and normally, and we will find that this has happened automatically. We will see that our new attitude toward liquor has been given us without any thought or effort on our part. It just comes. That is the miracle of it. We are not fighting it, neither are we avoiding temptation. We feel as though we had been placed in a position of neutrality, safe and protected. We have not even sworn off. Instead, the problem has been removed. It does not exist for us. We are neither cocky nor are we afraid. That is our experience. That is how we react, so long as we keep in fit spiritual condition. Like nowhere in this program, in these pages, does it say that we continue to fight alcohol one day at a time. Point blank clarity in these pages, the problem has been removed. The 10th step promises. It no longer exists for us. That's what this spiritual awakening as the result of the steps will give you. That's it. Cast iron guarantee. If you do the work, it works. And if you don't, it won't. I make no apologies for sounding like a broken down record when I say that time after time after time, because it's my experience. It's the truth of what's set out in this big book. And it's come to be the truth in my life. And I see the demonstration of that power working through so many others when they are willing, honest, and open-minded enough to accept the spiritual help. Many haven't been brought to their knees in that pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization. That's the state that they're brought to before they can accept it. But isn't it a great thing that they are brought to that stage in order to be able to accept it? There's not a negative in any respect as to how you get to this place. There's not a negative in any respect about what you've lost to get to this point of being part of a fellowship whose only aim is to be helpful, to every newcomer that crosses the door. There's no negative in any of this. There's no negative that you're an addict. There's no negative that you're an alcoholic. There's no negative in any of it. Because the reality of it is the gifts, the promises, and everything that's going to be given to you are so clear. Step 2 in the short form talks about the fact that we came to believe that this power greater than ourselves can restore us to sanity. Sanity around alcohol. This first line, and we have ceased fighting anything or anyone, even alcohol. For by this time, sanity will have returned. So what they're saying here is by step 10, the sanity around alcohol will have returned. If it hasn't happened before then, well, it hasn't happened before then. But what they're saying is, if you take all of the action from the beginning of the steps up to this point of step 10, the sanity will have returned. And we've ceased fighting everything and everyone, including alcohol. And by this point, what I experienced is, which was the greatest thing for me, I'd ceased fighting myself. Because what this program had enabled me to do, what these steps had enabled me to do, was to get rid of the blocks of the awareness of God's presence in me. Through my step 4 process, I got rid of all of the blocks. I've started fighting against you, stopped fighting against you. I've stopped fighting against my own thoughts about what I thought about you. You know, it was a two-way thing, and I didn't even realize it was happening. I started to see things from an entirely different angle, like it says on page 66. You were no longer the person that was doing everything to me, and I was no longer the person that was fighting against you because of what I thought you were doing to me. Because in actual fact, you weren't doing anything to me anyway. I started to identify it was my selfishness, my self-seeking, my resentments, my fears, all of the stuff within inside me was what was blocking me to the awareness of God's presence. And when I tap into the awareness of God's presence and the consciousness, like it says in the book, I start to see you from a different angle. I start to see myself from a different angle. Therefore, I've stopped ceasing everything and everyone, and even alcohol. At this point, after those couple of lines, for by this time sanity will have returned, my sponsor closed the book and just asked me this question. When was the last time you thought about alcohol? And he just sat in silence. I was thinking, well, is he not gonna move on here? Because I'm on a time schedule, you know? And he just sat in silence. And then he asked the question again. He said, well, what's your answer? I'm asking you a question, you give me an answer. When was the last time you thought about alcohol? And in that moment, genuinely, the penny dropped. The penny dropped. I had not thought of alcohol for a very significant amount of time. A few months. But that was a very significant amount of time for me. The person who had the mental obsession upon them every single millisecond of the day. That was a miracle that I had to be asked and then couldn't actually work out the last time I thought about alcohol when he asked me that very direct question. Because what this book and what these spiritual principles enable us to do, right back on page 51, it tells us, leaving aside the drink question, right in step 2, leaving aside the question of drink, they tell why living was so unsatisfactory. Because the way that I was living was the thing in those bedevilments on page 52, a prey to misery and depression, couldn't make a living, useless. All of those bedevilments that I was living in. From page 51 onwards, they show how the change came over them. right the way through to page 84, where we're experiencing these 10-step promises. They show how many hundreds of people are able to say that the presence of God, the consciousness, the awareness of the presence of God is today the most important factor of their lives. They present a powerful reason why one should have faith. Right on page 51, my sponsor said to me, you're leaving aside this drink question here, because there is no doubt in your mind that you're powerless physically and mentally. There was no question about that in my life. So let's move on and keep on turning the pages. Keep on having faith in this process and just see what happens. That's all he said to me at that point. And I didn't even realize it was happening to me all the way through the steps 2, right the way to step 10. That's the miracle of it, you know? And the sanity had returned with regards to the alcohol. But I'd only just entered the world of the spirit. Remember, we keep on mentioning that. I keep on mentioning this. The sanity had returned with regards to alcohol, but my thinking towards life still needed practice. And that's why this step 10 process is so incredibly important. Everybody thinks at this point we're talking about my entire sanity as a whole human being has returned. No, we've still got work to do there on our innermost self. We've still got work to do there. And the way that we can do the work even more so is by having the alcohol thing removed, right? The drug thing, whatever it is, have that removed. And then that's when we can start to work on with our innermost self. And then there's more and more clarity comes with my thinking. Because remember, this is now all about what my thinking is. We'll seldom be interested in liquor. Not interested in it in one slight bit of, not interested in the slightest. Doesn't enter. Yes, do I think about it? Yeah, I think about it. But do I react sanely and normally to it? Yeah, because I know the reality of it is that I can never, ever safely use alcohol in any form whatsoever, ever again for the rest of my life. I'm crystal clear about that. Why? Because Dr. Silkworth told me about that in the doctor's opinion. And I learned about it that in there is a solution. I've got no control, no choice, no power over alcohol. None. And it's all three of those things. I also learned that if I've got no mental defense against the first drink, then I'm in trouble. How do I get the mental defense against the first drink? Well, I need to access a power that is greater than me. Where do I find that power? Well, that's exactly the purpose of the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. The golden thread that runs through this whole entire book never leaves you unclear about what we have to do, how we have to do it, to be able to get to step 10 for the sanity to be restored. It's incredible, really, when you think about it. If tempted, we recoil from it as from a hot flame. I'm not even tempted. What God has given me, how I have the set of spiritual tools that are laid at my feet. I am, you know this thing, I hear it in the room sometimes, you're only an arm's length away from a drink. What is that all about? I know that, like, there I'm an arm's length away from a drink, cup of tea, right? Yeah. But if I keep on doing what I'm supposed to be doing with this program, you know, I wouldn't even be reaching out. I wouldn't even be putting out an arm's length to lift up a drink, because I know intuitively that it's not the right thing for me to do, you know? So for the newcomer in the room, I personally don't find those statements helpful, you know, because you can't live in fear for the rest of your life that you're only an arm's length away from one drink, because that's not the reality, because it goes on to tell us the reason why. And even I recoil from it like a hot flame, even with non-alcoholic drinks. You know my reaction to non-alcoholic drinks. Non-alcoholic drinks are for non-alcoholics. That's just, I don't understand the concept of a zero beer or a zero ale or a zero spirit. I don't get the concept of that. I'm an alcoholic. I want alcohol. So even with a non-alcoholic drink, I recoil from it like a hot flame. That's how much strength, power, direction I have in me. Now, I know people that are alcoholic and do lift that non-alcoholic stuff, but that's fine. You knock yourselves out. If that's what your life is, that's your life. I place no judgment or opinion on that. But whatever has happened to me in this psychic change, this personality change, I even recoil from that like a hot flame. And it's wonderful. It's beautiful. Even thinking about alcohol now, I'm just like, oh God, no. And it's not in a way where I have a distaste for anybody else that is drinking. I can be around alcohol all the time. All the time. It doesn't affect me in any way, shape or form. Now, isn't that the miracle of it? The person that drank every single day, couldn't get a breath, had to be locked up for 3.5 months to even get a chance to get a breath, was literally dying because of all of this drinking and drugging. To be able to be surrounded by it and not impacted by it in one single solitary way. Like, who knew that was even possible? Because I didn't even know that was possible when I came into the rooms. But it entirely is. We react sanely and normally. Yeah, I do. If somebody walks past me with, a glass of red wine or a glass of white wine or a tequila or whatever, and I smell that, I go, oh God, isn't that interesting? That smell, that red wine smells beautiful. I can still, or sometimes, if someone's sitting beside me and they're having a red wine, I will lift it up and I'll smell it. And it's like, oh God, yeah, it's really oaky. It's really loads of berries in there or whatever. But I'm not tempted because I want to drink it. I'm just interested. Now, some people would say, oh, Max, you shouldn't be talking like that because it'll trigger somebody in the room if you start talking about those drinks. Oh, give me a break. I can't trigger somebody. I can't. If you're not in fit spiritual condition, then there's something wrong with your fit spiritual condition. That's what we have to look at, not what I'm saying in a meeting. Do you know? There are no triggers. If you're an alcoholic and you're not in fit spiritual condition, you're going to lift up no matter what. Simple as that. So what have we got to solve? We've got to solve this fit spiritual condition. That's where we're at. And it did happen automatically. I didn't even realize this change was happening as we went through it. We will see that our new attitude toward liquor has been given us. It's been given to us without any thought or effort on our part. It just comes. I've just showed up, kept on turning the pages with my sponsor, followed the instructions, and all of a sudden, it didn't feel as if I was making any effort. It just came. It was just given to me. All of a sudden, this problem that I had all my life had been removed. That's the miracle of it. Who thought that showing up with an ex-problem drinker who was armed with the facts about themselves, passed on the words from 164 pages, and here I am in the same position as them, not being affected by the stuff that I used to be affected by. Definitely we are not fighting it, and neither are we avoiding temptation. My family were out last night drinking and doing discos, da-da-da-da-da. Did I have to avoid going? No, right there in the midst of it all. Why? Because we feel as though we've been placed in a position of neutrality, safe and protected. Where's that coming from? We've heard those words before. Page 59. Right as we're about to move into step 3. The first time we're asked the prayer, half measures availed us nothing. We stood at this turning point. Are we going to turn out to the external world and let that continue to be the problem, or are we going to turn inwards, tap into that great reality that is deep down in every single man, woman and child? At that point, on page 59, before we move into step 3, we asked, this is the prayer, we asked his protection and care with complete abandon. And in saying that prayer and in asking for his protection and care with complete abandon, look at what happens all the way through from step 3 up to step 10. The promises comes alive. you're placed in a position of neutrality. You are so safe and protected around alcohol. And anything else for that matter. You are so safe and protected. We haven't even sworn off. We haven't made a pledge. All we've done is this. We've shown up and we're taking action. And that's what we continue to do. The problem has been removed, past tense. It does not exist for us. No longer a problem. Like it says on page 17, first paragraph, the problem has been solved. Past tense, like the first promise on the front cover page. They show how many thousands of women have recovered, past tense, from alcoholism. Gone, done, dusted, over, removed. How many different ways do you want to say it? It's been taken away. I do not fight alcohol one day at a time. In Bill's story, it tells us on the 11th of December, 1934, he drank for the last time. The last time. This program of recovery, this spiritual awakening as the result of the steps, ensures that you do not have to fight alcohol one day at a time. What this program enables you to do is to live your life one day at a time, not regretting the past and not afraid of the future, being able to be present right here, right now. We're neither cocky nor are we afraid. I'm not any of that. That is our experience. 100% through Bill, that is my experience. No ifs, no buts, no babies. It is my experience, and I see it happening in so many others. But here's the little caveat. That is how we react. So long as we keep in fit spiritual condition. Underline, asterisk, highlight, whatever you want to do. To make that piece jump out at you, as long as we keep in fit spiritual condition. I'm going to go on to talk about that. But imagine your life being the fact that you've ceased fighting against everything and everyone, even alcohol. Like, that's powerful. No manipulation of people. No trying to control people. No trying to get what you want from people. No trying to put people under pressure to get what you want from them. Not trying to impact other people's lives to get what you want. Allowing people to get on with their lives and to live their lives and to let them be. Because the reality of it is, what I've learned through this beautiful experience is, I work on me. You work on you. Don't project yours onto me, because it's not mine to hold. And it's not mine to fix. And I won't project onto you what's mine to hold and what's mine to have fixed. By working really closely with this power that is in me, that works in and through me every single day. I've ceased fighting. And it's the most beautiful thing. I was talking to somebody the other day, this step 10 process changed my whole outlook on life. And the challenge that you have at this point is when there's other people in your life who may be members of the fellowship too, who aren't doing this practice, and you're working really, really hard at this practice, but we see that as an opportunity to keep on working on our innermost self. Let everybody else get on with doing what they're doing, because we can only work on us, on me. Don't know where that has all come from, but it's so incredibly important, because it's not the outside world or anybody else in it that is affecting me. My relationship, the most important relationship in my life, is with that inside me. That spirit of the universe, realm of the spirit, creative, intelligent, mother, nature, father of light, whatever you choose to call it. That's the relationship that I work on, because in that relationship and keeping in fit spiritual condition, all my other relationships are beyond measure, beyond words, remarkable. So here's the thing. It's easy to let up in the spiritual program of action. A little reminder. Action, 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 because it happens for the rest of our lives. Anybody that's sitting here thinking that you're just going to wander out of your treatment facility or wander out of your meeting and not take any action, rethink that one, baby, because this is a big, big deal, action for the rest of your life. We're all little action heroes, spearheads of God's ever-advancing creation. That's what we are. So it is easy to let up on the spiritual program of action, and rest on our laurels. Okay, so everybody that's got to this point, step 10, congratulations, well done, medals, gold stars, you've done all the inventories, you've got your shortcomings and your defects of character taken away, you're going on this journey, you're doing all of your amends, well done, pat on the back, hugs. Sobriety chips are being given out to you. You're being asked to do chairs. You're being of service to other people. And then all of a sudden you think, you know what, I'm going to take a wee break today. And I'm not going to bother going to that meeting. I'm not going to bother calling the sponsor. But I've just got all of these accolades. I've got to step 10. I am amazing. Never thought I'd get here. And then boom, you start to rest on your laurels. And basically what that means is that you're so delighted with all the previous successes that you've had. You've got this crown of laurels on your head like they did back in ancient Greek times, those lovely bay leaf crowns. You're walking around town with one of those big crowns on your head thinking that you're the bee's knees. My sponsor would describe it as something very different, but I just say bee's knees. So you're walking around the town dead proud of yourself, dead happy, right? But your life will not continue on the successes of the past. Your life will not continue to be what it needs to be on the basis of steps 1 through 10. And then you're thinking, I'm happy as Larry here. There's nothing else for me to do. The drink thing doesn't exist. So I'm just going to continue on, but not doing very much to continue with these successes. If you're thinking that your life is going to be great because you've done everything up to this point and you're thinking, I'll just go easy on 10, 11 and 12, you're very much mistaken. Recalibrate that thought. Tap into the source within you, because your continued development and progress is contingent on the spiritual condition. Because here's another little caveat, another little nod, another little risk, another little reminder. We are headed for trouble if we do rest on our laurels and think that everything that got us to this point is going to keep us going for the rest of our lives, because it won't. Why? Because alcohol is a subtle foe. It's an enemy. It's so cunning, baffling, powerful. It still wants us dead, locked up, or we will go insane. So subtle, cunning, so sly, baffling. It still wants us cut off from the light. And it is so powerful that it will come up on you before you even know it if you rest on your laurels. Because what got you to this point is not going to get you to the future. You've got to deal with it in this moment, today, right here. May you find him now. Like it says at the top of page 59. May you find him now. And every moment, may you find him now. We're not cured of alcoholism. 100% we are not cured. But what we are is recovered from what? Like it says on page 20, a hopeless state of mind and body. Hopeless being beyond medical aid. We've recovered from that by the time we get to this point. The sanity has returned. And it goes on to tell us what we have to do, what we really have. Listen to those words. What we really, truly honestly have is a daily reprieve. Daily reprieve. Do you know what somebody on death row has? A daily reprieve. That might sound really stark, but the reality of it is, if we don't practice this, we're on death row. And it's only going to end up one way. If the alcohol thing returns, like it says in the doctor's opinion, we'll go insane, we'll get locked up, or we'll die. That's the reality. That's the truth. So that's not where you want to be right now. So what you want to be doing is your daily reprieve contingent on the maintenance of our spiritual condition. Maintenance steps, daily reprieve steps. It's my responsibility in this physical world to maintain them. God sorts out the condition. Like a car. If I had a car, I don't need one. It's great. Anyway, if I had a car, I have to maintain it. I have to make sure there's enough air, enough oil, enough waters for the wipers. I need to make sure it's clean and tidy inside. The majority of times when I had a car, it was a mess. But anyway, I maintain it. It's my job to do that. The condition, if something goes wrong, I take it to a mechanic because I haven't got the skills, ability, aptitude to be able to do a mechanical job. The same applies with God. I maintain this every day. If I have a problem, I bring that problem to the power that is greater than me through my step 10, 11 and 12. Isn't that a very beautiful thing? I live every single day in 10, I learn every single day in 11, and I grow every single day in 12. But right now we're dealing with our step 10 practice and we're sorting out the maintenance. I'm watching, asking, turning, watching, asking, turning, watching, asking, turning. That's all I'm doing with the grace of God every single moment of the day. And the reason why, every day, pinpoint, laser, precision, every day is a day when we must carry. There's no musts in AA, is that right? Well, there's another one. Where we must carry the vision of God's will into all of our activities. The vision is just basically the image of God's will for us. Right? But the thing about it is as well, we must carry. It takes effort to carry something. Sometimes I feel in any given day that I'm carrying a heavy weight, but it's my weight. But when I carry the vision of what God's will be for me, the weight gets lighter and lighter and lighter and lighter to the extent that it doesn't exist. That's what the power gives. So the prayer that we have at this point is, how can I best serve thee? Thy will, not mine, be done. And does that remind you of anything? Those third step promises. You know, the third step, do with me, build with me. The people will bear witness to thy love, thy power, thy way of life. May I do thy will always. It's just a reminder of all of those things that we've been building up to. But these are thoughts. It's all about our thinking. These are thoughts which must, there's another must, go with us constantly, all through the day, constantly. We can exercise our willpower along this line all we wish. It is the proper use of the will. I can work out and exercise my will all the time. But it's the proper use of the will. My will is God's will. When I'm aligned, when I'm removing the blocks to the awareness of God's presence, when I'm conscious, when I'm aware, when I'm connected, my will is God's will. Until it's not. When I go into self-reliance, when I go into my own willpower. But I have a technique. I have a toolkit that is laid at my feet every single moment of the day that I can bend down, lift it up, carry it with me, and therefore all my problems are solved. I maintain it. God sorts out the condition. And I'm going to finish on this. If you're not doing step 10 the way that it is set out, I don't know what you're doing. If you're not doing this daily, I don't know what you're doing. You got to ask yourself these questions. What am I doing with my daily reprieve? What am I doing to maintain my spiritual maintenance? What am I doing to maintain this? Every single day I review that as I move into 11 as well. This is where the rubber meets the road. This is where you grow in effectiveness and understanding. This is where you live in the fourth dimension of existence. And let me tell you, the abundance of everything, good, positive, everything that you get as a result of this practice is a life-changing, mind-blowing miracle that you will not be able to articulate. You will just not be able to articulate it. I can't, but I get really excited about doing this stuff because I know how wonderful, amazing life is and continues to be when I maintain this stuff. I don't have a life of misery. I don't have a life of doubt. I don't have a life of fear. There's not one person on this planet that can affect me in a negative way. Not one. Not one. Because God gives me the power, the strength, the direction, the love, the compassion, and everything over and above that to live this life in the most remarkable way possible. I was a down and out drunk who was set to die. But God had another plan. And my mission was to accept it. And thank God I did. I'll leave it at that.